Hey guys, and welcome to the F1 Word. Before I go any further, I love you all. Thank you so much. 14k subscribers. That's insane. The channel's booming at the moment. Thank you so much to everyone that subscribed tonight. I will try and give shout outs later, but I have a feeling there's going to be quite a few, so it might be quite tricky. Hopefully we're all okay in the chat. Let me know, by the way, if there's any audio issues today. There are also some problems with YouTube, so if you see any problems with the stream, just give me a shout and I will try and fix them. If I can't, we may just have to bear with it just a little bit. YouTube being YouTube, as ever. We are going to jump straight into this one, though. No housekeeping or anything like that, because we have got a hell of a lot to talk about. 3 car launches and a sneaky little leak as well, which sounds a little bit dodgy. Good evening, John T. This one's going to be mad, isn't it? John T? Have we got John T? Are you there, mate? I think John T?
There we are.
It could be me. Yeah, it's all right. Just like I say, YouTube is properly playing up today for a lot of people, so might have to bear with it. I was just saying it's going to be crazy tonight with this one, John T.
Well, yeah, there's just 14k just before we come on. How cool is that? Thank you, everyone.
It's awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. And joining us again for his second appearance on one of our streams is TK. Good evening, TK.
Hello, everyone.
How are you doing? Are you all right?
I'm all right. Thanks.
Yeah, we're going to have to just jump straight into it. So we've got so much to go through. Renault, of course, launched their RS18 yesterday. We're going to go backwards order, naturally, because that's just the way I like to do things. All in all, though, John T, initial impressions of the car, it didn't look that revolutionary, but now you sort of start digging around a little bit. There's a few interesting bits on there, we'll say.
It's very much minimalist by the look of it. They certainly haven't added a great deal around the sides, which has been the biggest area. So I'm curious. I think this is just a teaser. There's going to be a lot more come Monday.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be pretty much the case. These are effectively show cars, aren't they? They don't like to give away too much, but a couple of areas I've highlighted on there. Very similar to the Red Bull, actually, which we'll get to a little bit later. Quite a lot of space down the side of the car on the side pods, which says to me they've got, as we'll look at the top view in a bit, they've really managed to nail that Coke bottle shape. They've also gone with the very small intakes, which I think is going to be one of the biggest areas of development, not development, but the biggest changes we see on the cars this year. But the biggest area of development is the barge boards, but they don't appear to have really bothered too much with them. But like you say, that could just be a bit of sandbagging at this stage.
Yeah, it could easily be. And they are small side pods, but with what we've seen from some other teams, they're a little bit bigger than what they've been doing. So it's crazy to see which way all the teams are going.
Yeah. I don't know. I was disappointed when I saw the Renault. Like I said, I've done a bit more digging. We'll have a look actually at one of the other angles of the car as well. A few interesting points. And I was saying on the side pod there, I know you want to point out as well, TK, some interesting aero bits that you've spotted on there.
Yeah, like you said, the barge board area was a bit simple looking, and the front wing did look quite simple as well. But that's something I spotted which intrigued me. Maybe I wonder if it's a cooling vent or some sort.
Yeah, it could be. It looks, because if I just go back to the front shot, actually, it does. My initial thought was that was part of the aero, but it does look. I'm not sure. It's so difficult because these are obviously just renders. They're not actually like the proper car themselves. But I think we're going to see. I mean, they've got those. What do they call them? Those aero cap barge boards. Is that what they were calling them last year? Because lol and all that. But yes, I lolled. I mean, what's your take on the side of that car, John T? Honestly, it's not spectacular, is it?
Yeah, well, like I said, it's very minimalist. They've not added a lot. We've seen loads and loads of additions from Haas, loads of additions from Williams. There's not really that much added, but like people say, I'm glad to see the Aerocat staying. I quite enjoyed that as a meme for the year.
Yeah, it's something a bit different, isn't it? I'll poke fun at it, I'm sure, plenty, but I'm going to go to the top view because that, I think for us, John T, that was the one that really impressed us, I guess is the way to put it, just how tight that packaging is at the back. I have highlighted a couple of areas there. Obviously, the nice sweeping lines there, the Lots of floor space, as we saw on the Red Bull as well, and not a lot going on either on the floor. Very plain floor, but obviously with it being a render, this isn't the final car, obviously. I just hope there's going to be more to it than this. I'm sure there will be.
Yeah, there's got to be, because if this is all they've developed over the winter, I think they'd be in a lot of trouble. They've got to be hiding stuff, but it does show the type package very well. You can't really see it from the side views.
No.
But from that top-down view, you can. It's very, very narrow at the back, just like the Red Bull is.
I mean, what are your thoughts on that, TK? It's a much better looking car from the top, isn't it, than it is from the side?
Yeah, definitely. It, as you said, it's really tightly packaged, and I think they might be heavily sandbagging, or just the render is quite simplified, because if you look at the floor, there aren't any of those aero holes or whatever you call them.
Yeah, like the could you call them aero vents almost? That's kind of what they look like, I guess. But
slot gaps is the name they go with.
Yeah, that'll do.
Yeah.
No T-wing from what I can see on this car either, but again, this is not anywhere near the finished car. It's quite difficult to review a car like this. I mean, quite a few people haven't bothered, to be honest, some of the proper big names, because there isn't really a lot to talk about. But I did mention it in my Red Bull First Impressions video, and I know we were talking about this the other day, Jonty, I think, briefly, but it kind of confirms, looking at the Red Bull and the Renault, that the Renault engine department have managed to finally compact their engine down a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there was quite a bit of talk over the winter with the Renault camp saying that they've worked wonders on the next engine. So far, it's proving to be, well, not proving, but certainly seeming to be true. Friday, I think, will confirm it when McLaren launch.
Yeah, I think that's another launch we're really, really looking forward to, isn't it? Of course, we'll look at that in Sunday's stream, because we're just not going to be able to get everything done this week because they're all launching so quickly now. But obviously, it's not the biggest deal. The livery itself, TK, I don't think that's their final race livery. I think they've painted a lot of that black to hide a lot of stuff, but I actually prefer it to the one they had last year. I don't know about you.
Well, I think it's pretty similar to the one last year. Obviously, some changes, but I quite like it.
I like the brighter yellow. It's almost Jordan-esque, isn't it, Jonty?
Yeah, but I really wish there was a few bits of white in there, just to hark back to the classic Renault liveries of the 80s.
Yeah, if I was picking a Renault livery, though, it'd be the one that Alonso had and won his championships with. Obviously, it was tobacco sponsorship, but I always like the look of that car. It was his colours. Just a closer look there at the barge boards. Those highlighted in blue, literally pretty much identical to last year. The aero cap, more or less the same, but it has got some nice little slats in there. Some interesting aero under the car. I'm not up on aerodynamics. I'm going to hold my hands up on that, and I never, ever claim to be. I just know what I see. What is that under there, Jonty, out of interest?
It looks to be a turning vane.
Oh, that makes sense.
You see that on quite a few of the other cars, but it's quite a different design. Usually they have a fin that will come down either side from the bottom of the nose, whereas that it almost looks like something smack in the middle, which is a little odd. But it's very hard to tell with the images they released.
Yeah, I've brightened these up as best I can, but obviously that then gives you a really grainy image, doesn't it? But what about the halo? I said yesterday it stuck out like a sore thumb. A few people came at me naturally in the comments and said, well, that's because it's on yellow. It's like, well, yeah, but it still sticks out like a sore thumb to me. I'm not, it's not the best looking one we've seen.
No, but it's hard to decide whether the black stands out more on the yellow, or if the yellow would stand out more against everything else. I'm not sure.
I was watching a video the other day, and I can't remember who it was that said, maybe an Alex actually, possibly, there's a rumour going around that they weren't allowed to paint it yellow because the only driver, brace yourself, that's allowed a yellow halo is the reigning world champion.
Yeah, there was talk about that Tour de France inspired move. I haven't heard anything concrete on it yet. Hopefully it won't happen because it'll just be silly.
We don't want that, do we, TK? That's just way too gimmicky for Formula One.
Yeah, I don't think so. But we don't want it, yeah. A lot of people will disagree with me on this, but I really don't think the halos look all that bad. The only thing I'm concerned about is the onboard cameras.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm not a fan of this Halo, but we're going to come to a car now that I think is absolutely stunning. And the more I look at it, the more I fall in love with it. And that is the Alfa Romeo Sauber. There is our man, Marcus Ericsson, of course. Probably the two men we speak most about on the channel, actually, Marcus Ericsson and Charles Leclerc there, Jonty. But hell of a good-looking car, that, considering it's a Sauber.
Yeah, and the more I see it, the more I like the livery as well, to be quite honest. It's quite minimalist, but there's something stylish about it.
Yeah, I always wanted a bit more red. Some of those Sean Bull liveries would have been brilliant. Sean Bull, actually, I don't know if you know, John, he's got himself a job with Renault now in the design department. Finally, we've been saying that for a while, haven't we?
Well, let's hope that they give him the chance to do something before the season starts.
That'd be brilliant, wouldn't it? We'll talk about that, I'm sure, at some point in a little bit more chatty ways, probably in Q&A. We'll get a bit more interactive. But I'm going to start off with the barge boards. You know I love a barge board. They are so unbelievably different to last year's Sauber. They've just gone in such a different direction on this car. I just love it. I just love every bit of that detail.
Yeah, me too. You can see the front barge board, if you like, quite Mercedes inspired, I think, with the vertical strakes in it.
Yeah.
Being quite aggressive. But then the extra stuff they've added further back on the wider barge boards. There's not a lot of them, but they're nicely sculpted and it fits the profile of the car quite well. And they seem to be doing a lot of things with the floor, not just slot gaps and brakes here and there. It looks quite contoured as well. I don't know if they're trying to come up with some clever pseudo system for trying to create ground effect, similar to what Renault did with the front exhaust.
Bob Roberts just saying in chat, I don't get the barge board love. I can't help it. I don't know what it is. It's just the barge boards this year are going to be key. And I think they're the areas we're going to see get developed the most. But I think a phrase, TK, we're probably going to use quite a bit for this Alfa Sauber is simple but effective, possibly.
Yeah, well, I'm no aero expert, but you can definitely tell a lot of development has been going on with the car compared to last year. And I'm really hoping it shows on the track.
I'd love to see them really jump. And they're going to jump anyway, aren't they, with that Ferrari engine, the up-to-date Ferrari engine. But there's a lot of inspiration on this car from last year's Ferrari. But one thing I'm going to jump to now, because I'm going to join TK on this one with regard to the halo, which we could get into trouble for now, mate, so just a warning. That's the halo from onboard from the T-cam shot. If all the halos come with the extra bits, excuse my fantastic drawing lines, by the way. If all the halos come with all those little bits stuck on like that and the sculpting on the inside like that, it's not going to be as bad as we thought. It's not just a carbon fibre tube when you look at it there, is it, John T?
No, well, you have to remember that there is a titanium skeleton inside that.
Yeah.
And they're allowed 20 millimeters of aero bits on the top. So we could see something even more radical than this. And I hope we do.
Going to be interesting to see what Red Bull... Obviously, we'll come to Red Bull properly in a minute, that we found there are some fairings on that halo, but I think they'll come with something a bit more up-to-date. But this was the first car we've really seen that have maximised the possibility of putting aero on. And it does. I think it does improve it.
Yeah, it gives it a bit more character.
I'm not sure. Is that... Just trying to work out, TK, if that is the T-cam shot. Obviously, the T-cam will be obviously a lot higher to give a better field of view, but that's sort of more or less what we're going to see. It's a great shot of the cockpit full stop and some of just how tight that car is. I can't get over how good it is.
Yeah, well, I think that's pretty close to the position of the T-cam, but obviously it will be angled more towards the front of the car, but we shall see.
Yeah, I mean, obviously... We'll talk very briefly about the halo. It's not, I'm saying it looks okay. It looks okay for the halo. It's never going to look great. It's the halo, but at the end of the day, if it saves a life, it's kind of already justified its position there. It's just a case of the teams trying to make it look as good as possible. I'm going to ask this hopefully for the final time, John T, because it does get boring asking this all the time, but I'm going to go with it one more time. How much do you think, from what you've seen of the cars so far, that central pillar is really going to make a difference to their view?
Not at all. I don't think. Now that I've had time to come to grips with the halo being there, I'm pretty sure it's not going to affect how their vision whilst driving. I mean, similar to anyone who wears glasses, you don't see them. Your brain just filters it out. I know it's further forward. I know it's bigger, but they're looking so much further down the road. It's rare that they're looking dead ahead.
Yeah. Obviously, you mentioned the glasses there. We've talked about that before. Was it? I think it's Lando Norris said to WTF1 today that it's like having a nose. You just get used to it. Basically, I think that's the best way to put it. That's a brilliant way of putting it.
Well, yeah, it's true. If everyone just crosses their eyes a bit, you can see your nose, but you just never notice it.
No. It's true. There's another shot there of the halo and that side of the car, John T. You got quite excited when I sent you the pictures the other day. You spotted quite a few air intakes.
Well, yeah, because you got the two main ones, which we saw from multiple teams last year, having the main intake and then a second one further back. But there is one on the shark fin, which is just weird. I don't know if that's a cooling intake or if they're trying to come up with some fancy way of stalling the rear wing, sort of similar to the F duct, if anyone can remember that.
Yes, yeah.
And that's entirely possible. As someone's mentioned in the comments, something I read earlier, that Sauber's designer is Jörg Zander, who designed the Brawn, which was very revolutionary
And a
in
stunning
some
car.
of its clever little tricks to get the aero right. So if you remember the double diffuser.
Yeah.
So who knows what he's come up with?
And again, looking back to the Sauber last year, around those air intakes, TK, there is, where the arrow is, there is a little one there that you can't quite see in that picture. Just completely different to last year's car. It's almost... Do you feel like last year they were just waiting for 2018 to come round as soon as they knew they were getting that up-to-date Ferrari engine?
Well, yeah, as soon as they got the Ferrari news, pretty much, I believe. So there was no point really in developing the 2017 car that much anymore. But actually, I found a photo somewhere about the Sauber 2017 car, and there was an air intake on it, somewhat similar to this one, where the middle part was blocked and it kind of divided itself into two parts. So
yeah, it's just a good looking car. And I think we were just saying there about last year and when they got the Ferrari news, I think as well, because they had that year-old engine, which they were massively criticised for when they made that decision, if they've put, let's say, that money aside effectively, we're all going to have to maybe just shut up a little bit about that, because they may prove us all wrong if this is what they've been developing on the money side for a while now. I'm very impressed as well, as you can see on the side pods there. We'll see on the front end in a moment, there is quite a small intake there, but it's kind of divided itself in two because of that part there of the barge board, that wing, if you like, on the side pod. It's very similar, that aeroplane wing, if you like, to the one on the Red Bull, but the rest of it's quite unique, isn't it, John T? We've not really seen anything like that as of yet from the cars launched.
No, not so far. And having the two different intakes on the side is very odd. I can't remember anyone else doing something like that. Certainly not yet. So who knows what the game is there? I mean, are they trying to... Is it all going to the radiator, or are they sending that second lot somewhere else? Or is it just going straight through the body again to try and keep the air pressures the same? I'm really not sure, because it's so new. I really haven't had time to sort of think about what it could be doing.
Obviously it's split in two. When you look at it from the front, I thought I put the front end picture on. I haven't. I'm so sorry. It's still sat in my editor like an absolute moron. It was such a mad rush to get all this done today. But the bottom one, in its shape and the way it is very similar to the old Benetton in its style, which is quite odd to see on a 2018 car. But I think there could be the possibility, obviously, the air intake, obviously the radiators on the bottom half, and then the top half could be going to the turbo, the engine, something in there. So I'm quite intrigued. It's quite different to what we've seen, and I'm just loving the fact that they've gone a different way, because Sauber either go ridiculously simple or try and copy something from a year ago that doesn't really work. But it is good to see. Also, the best shot of this car, despite all the brilliant aero bits, is the back end, John T. No T-wing, as far as we can tell, but that suspension, as we've seen on a couple of cars now, a very interesting shape.
Yeah, there's quite an up-down kink on the wishbones there. I mean, from where it mounts to the hub at the top, I mean, the pair of them almost form a sort of elongated M shape, which is quite severe. Most of them tend to stay quite flat. I don't know if that's trying to play around with using it as a sort of surrogate T-wing. I don't know.
Yeah. I think as well.
Aesthetic, yeah.
Yeah, go on, TK. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, from an aesthetic point of view, I really love the rear wing where they've left the bottom part on bare carbon fiber and only the top part painted.
Yeah.
That does look cool.
It does. It really does. I have to say as well, the diffuser, a little bit basic. I've just highlighted a couple of areas out they're probably going to want to do some development on over the next, I was going to say over the next few sort of weeks and months, but to be honest, they could have already developed it and we just haven't seen it yet. So again, these aren't the final cars. We know that. I think, if I'm being honest, based on budgets and the fact that Alfa influence probably hasn't going to have paid off too much just yet, I think this is probably pretty close to the final Alfa Sauber, if I'm being honest. I don't know what you think, John T.
Yeah, I'd say this is probably what we're going to see. Certainly in testing, maybe they might have one or two tricks they've decided to keep quiet and save for Australia. I hope so. But all in all, this looks very promising. It's certainly going to be a massive step forward from what they were.
I think, obviously, we'll do proper predictions and things when we do the actual season previews a little bit nearer the time we've got testing out of the way. But realistically, TK, looking at obviously having a 2018 Ferrari engine now and how good that chassis and the aero looks at the moment, what's a realistic goal, honestly, for Alfa Sauber this year?
Well, I believe they might be challenging for, well, depends on the Honda engine. They might be at least ahead of Toro Rosso, maybe ahead of Haas, probably, yeah. And, well, it's hard to say because the car does look promising, but only the stopwatch matters.
Yeah, exactly. You're spot on there. And I have to say, Sauber don't make, well, he says, livery-wise, they make some pretty hideous cars, but they don't make particularly ugly cars, do they? I mean, obviously that one with the Brazilian bank, that livery was horrific. But the cars are never terrible and they never really go that quickly. But like you say there, if Honda absolutely mess everything up, then they're guaranteed a spot anyway in the championship. But I think I can see teams like Williams just looking over their shoulder a little bit at Alfa Sauber, to be honest. Somebody just asked in the chat, actually, why the yellow around the tailpipe area. That's actually an area I wanted to ask John T about because I wasn't 100% sure. I'm not quite sure what those little tubes are.
There is separate wastegate exhaust direct from the turbo, which was brought in at the start of 2016, I believe, to try and increase the noise from the cars because before that, the wastegate had been recycled to keep the turbo spinning between gear changes.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, just another look at the side view there. A couple in chat asking for a look at that side view. It's the only one I've got. Like I said, I've got a couple of pictures I didn't get up in the edit because I was still uploading or putting pictures in OBS 2 minutes before I went live. So it's been absolutely chaotic this afternoon trying to get all this sorted. I suppose the one that everybody has been talking about this week is the old Red Bull. And it's, it's incredibly different livery. John T, the more I see it, the more I wasn't keen on it when I first saw the image, but I have to say it's grown on me quite a bit.
I love this straight away. It looks fantastic, but then I like the odd weird liveries that people come out with sometimes during testing. I mean, Red Bull a couple of years ago, the Camo Bull, absolutely loved that and wish they'd kept it for the whole year. But sadly, that's not the case.
No, we've seen from there. They've already said obviously it's a one-off livery, but we've already seen from the team wear and the overalls and the trucks and things like that we're going to be going back to the old Red Bull livery, which to be fair is a nice livery. You know, I'm not going to complain too much. I am going to start off with the giggity of the of the live stream, and that is one very tightly packaged rear end, Jonty.
Yeah, the tightness on this rear end is obscene. You've probably not got a picture uploaded of it, but if you look at the pull rod from the suspension, it's the same kind of angle and position as the Williams, and yet the Williams one is inside the engine cover where it meets the floor at the bottom, and there on the Red Bull you've got about 2 inches gap between them. It just shows how insanely small Red Bull have made this car.
And it again kind of confirms what we were saying about that Renault engine. Clearly a bit better package this year. There were rumours they were trying to focus on that, obviously, as well as power and reliability, but that was one of the areas they wanted to improve on. Just another angle of it there. It's Adrian Newey, isn't it, TK? He's always able to get these cars so tight and so perfect, but as we saw in 2014, that did give Red Bull a lot of problems. So they're kind of really relying on Renault nailing that engine, aren't they?
Well, yeah, I really hope this works out, because something I really wanted to point out is look at the side pod. The widest part of the side pod is very low. I think they might be up to something here in terms of lowering the center of gravity by fitting all the components as low as possible. I really hope they manage to keep the car or the engine cool as well.
Yeah, then obviously, and we'll look at another view in a minute, but those air intakes are absolutely tiny. So if they are going to have problems keeping that engine cool, they've really kind of restricted themselves, haven't they, Jonty? And that this has got to work. Otherwise, they've not got a lot of air going into that engine, and it's really, really tight.
Yeah, and if it doesn't work, they haven't got any room to open it up because they've made it so tight. They've got to hope and pray that this is all right, but Red Bull aren't idiots. They've been around a while now and they've been successful for a while. They wouldn't be going this aggressive if they weren't sure things were looking up on the engine department.
Yeah, definitely. There's obviously been signs, haven't there, from somewhere. Be interested if they end up with a Honda engine next year, how tightly they managed to package that rear end, but that's one for a year from now. Obviously onto barge boards, naturally, because it's me. Also, that wing on the side pod, actually, going back to that original image, or no, I'll stick with that one, actually. Similar to the Saubers, but yet, again, we were talking the other day, Jonty, it's so perfectly sculpted, isn't it?
Yeah, well, this is probably the genius of Adrian Newey showing through. They don't have to throw a million things at it just to make it work. He can take what there is there and refine it to the point where it's only as much as is needed.
Yeah. The barge boards themselves, that the initial barge board, the first part, is pretty much an evolution of last year's, from what I can tell. It's not massively changed, obviously slightly different sculpting to it, but the second part of the barge board, or barge board number 2, I'm going to call it on the side pod, because I'm never quite sure what to call those. It, to me, looks like their version, if you like, of the Mercedes. Not a copy, but their version of. Because if you look at the Ferrari, it's very pointed, very spiky. It's kind of, well, it's the 2018 Haas barge board, isn't it? But they've basically copied that. But this is kind of Red Bull's own interpretation of the Mercedes one, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely looks similar to the Mercedes.
Yeah, just without the sort of all the jagged spikes that Mercedes seemed to be adding at every race last year. I didn't like those, I must admit.
Yeah, I mean, I love Adrian Newey design cars. He very rarely lets us down with stuff like that, but it's just every bit of that just looks so. And obviously, everything on an F1 car is there to do something, but Adrian Newey makes it look like it's there to do something. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can understand that. Knowing how smart he is, how many of these things could be put on to make people think they're doing something? And then when we get to Australia, suddenly they're not there.
Well, actually, I've read today, just before we came on social media, and I think a few others, you've probably mentioned it in the chat. I've not been watching the chat as much as I usually do, to be honest, but there was some talk they've been airbrushing things out of the car from the footage of the Silverstone shakedown. So they're obviously hiding something and they're up to something, but I've got a feeling this will look very different. Obviously not just in livery, but in terms of the aero when we get to Barcelona, TK.
Yeah, well, I don't know really. To be honest, I think they are going to keep a lot of this complexity, since last year when they launched their new car and everyone was talking about how simple it was, Adrian Newey just said that they're down on engine power, so they have to keep the drag low. And I think that approach changed quite a bit during the season. They realized they might be better off making the time up in the corners, and I believe this is a continuation of that approach.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. We'll look at the front end as well. I mean, she's beautiful, isn't she? Let's be honest. I mean, the air intake on that side pod is the smallest I've ever seen. The wings from that view just look like old F1, where they've just stuck something on, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But it's Adrian Newey, so it will work. And the amount of space just to show that sculpting off between the barge boards and the side pods, and then the space on the floor, it's just insane, isn't it, Jonty? Absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's always surprising what he comes up with. And those huge wings just above the air intakes, I mean, we've seen similar things from Ferrari last year and from some of the other teams already, but they're so wide. I mean, I'm guessing you got to be at least 4 inches sticking out from the side of the side pod there. So it's got to be doing something significant. But being that far out, I just can't figure out what it could be.
They just, like I say, it just reminds me of the old days where they just would turn up and stick a winglet on. But like I say, with that being Adrian Newey, that's going to work. You don't even need to really think about it. I mean, I'm going to come to a couple of your pictures now, Jonty, that you sent me. Well, actually, when we recorded on Monday, and that all went wrong, didn't it? But yeah, the front suspension angle you were talking about and you pointed out to me, I had not noticed that at all.
Yeah, it just seems quite steep. You frequently see the cars mounting the suspension sort of at funny angles to try and get some aero from the arms themselves. But the tilt back on the Red Bull ones just seems quite severe compared to the other cars, as if he's using that to direct more air to the floor and to really get it to a point where the diffuser can work it hard.
Yeah. Is there anything on the front end of that car that you've spotted, TK, before I go on to Jonty's Halo picks?
Well, to be honest, not so much on the front end. The side pods and the barge boards were the parts of the car I was most intrigued about.
Yeah, I'm not going to say any more on barge boards because I'm getting some flack in the chat now because I seem obsessed with them. It is a beautiful looking car. We're going to come to the ugliest part of the car now, understandably. I mean, it's the Halo. A couple of picks there, Jonty. I've had to put them on top of each other just so I didn't stretch them too much, but I will let you talk us through them.
Yeah, it was just, I was actually watching the shakedown video, and there's quite a sizable bulge there. It looks to be just where the Halo comes to mount, the rear parts come to mount to the body. And on that top picture, if you look very, very carefully, it looks suspiciously like there's a bit of duct tape covering something up, and it hasn't quite managed it. Now, it could just be sort of a little fairing that goes over the bolts that mount the Halo in, but I can't imagine the Red Bull having such a crude design for it. I'm sure they would have come up with something better, which makes you think, is it doing something? Is there some trick in there? I mean, I don't know. I just spotted it and thought it was worth mentioning.
Yeah, definitely something there. Yeah, it's like we were saying earlier or just a few minutes ago, they're so clever, and Adrian Newey's so clever that there's going to be something on that Halo that surprises us all. I'll take you to your next picture then, Jonty, and let you explain that one. It does look like duct tape. Is that what? Yeah, that does, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying. If you look at how wide that thing is, that's a lot wider than the actual arm of the halo itself. I mean, my first thought was, have they got a duct running from the nose up the front pillar of the halo to come out the sides? I mean, I wouldn't put it past them. I would imagine they've been looking at it.
I was having that really does. I don't know what you think, TK, but that does look like there's a bit of tape on there just covering something. Yeah.
Yeah, it might be. To be honest, it's hard to see.
Sorry, probably like the worst time for me to be staring at it on a stream. I haven't had a chance to really look at them properly today, but that's really intrigued me now. Your next couple of pictures, I think that is John T. Yep. Yeah, that is two. Sorry, I just want to work out it's two pictures or one there, but it's definitely two.
Well, yeah, on the top one, you just got where there's a definite fairing, sort of elongating the shape to try and reduce the drag behind it. On the bottom image, you can see how high that sits above where the halo comes in. The arms of the halo come straight down to the mounting point. There's no raised lump on it. That is sticking up the full 20 millimeters of allowance that they've got. There's got to be some cause to it.
Yeah. It's one of those fairings as well, isn't it? That isn't totally obvious until I didn't really spot it until I saw the shakedown video of Daniel Ricciardo, like you there. It's a very different approach to, say, the Alfa Sauber way, but I think actually if you stuck a wing on there, they wouldn't be a million miles away, would they?
No, it'd be pretty similar.
It's an I'll just have a look at chat to see what people think. Some saying they think it might be a welding mark. You're a welder, Jonty, so...
No, yeah, it is titanium, but it's a skeleton inside. All the things you can physically see on the car are a carbon fibre fairing that fits over it.
Yeah, I thought I'd put that to you. I have no idea about welding, so I thought I'd put that one to you. And I think this is your final halo picture then, Jonty.
Is there another?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was
you
just
see.
a highlight.
Surprised even yourself.
That was just a highlight. How you can see the arms of the halo just come straight down towards the mounting point. There is, compared to the previous image, it's a big step up. Like I said, the regulations allow them 20 millimeters around that structure to play with aero devices. So there's enough for them to get something significant out of it.
Yeah. That's all you, Jonty. That's not my area of expertise at all. I'll come to you then, TK, for this one. The halo is never going to look great. So if we imagine that's not on the car, what are your overall impressions of that Red Bull as a whole?
I think it looks really promising, and I really enjoyed the new livery, and I hope they'd keep it.
Yeah, I'd like to see it stay. I just want to see one of the big teams go a different way. But can they challenge Mercedes and Ferrari this year, or it's all going to come down to that Renault power unit, isn't it, TK?
Well, yeah, the power unit is going to be a deciding factor, but I really hope they could.
There is actually more. Sorry, I've just realised I've got more pictures on here of the Red Bull and what very similar to what we're talking about with the Alfa Sauber, the interesting shape of their rear suspension, is it, Jonty? Yeah.
Yeah, the rear wishbones, they're sweeping up towards the mounting point.
Are we thinking that's sort of simulating a T-wing almost?
Yeah, because the previous Red Bulls, their suspension setups, it's always angled down, going more towards mounting sort of midway or even low down on the gearbox. That is sweeping up quite a sharp angle. And with how tight the body is, there's a lot more air going to be going to that area. So I'm sure that'll be working the air quite hard as well as doing its job as suspension.
Yeah, I've tried to brighten the picture up a little bit, and I've tried to look as best I can, but I can't even get a shot of the diffuser, but I'd imagine that's going to be incredible as well. But yeah, just a couple of shots then of the rear suspension, I think you were saying, for comparison.
Well,
I believe, yeah.
Yeah, again, it's difficult from that angle, but you can definitely tell it's sitting up. It's definitely mounted higher on the body end than the hub end, which is just not something they're usually flat or going the opposite direction.
Yeah, there's a better image there from a zoomed in one of the car indoors. I think a little bit easier to see away from the spray, but it's sort of highlighting what we've just said there, John T. So
yeah, I mean that mounting point's right up near the wastegate exhausts. They're usually not that close, so he's up to something.
Yeah, it's Adrian Newey. He's always up to something, isn't he? Your impressions of the Red Bull then? I mean, it's a beautiful car. I still love the Alfa, but I think in terms of the aero and how beautifully packaged that is, it's hard not to say the Red Bull's the best looking so far.
It's going to be quick, that's for sure. I'm pretty certain that he's going to have made extra strides in the corners just to cover any deficit there may be from the engine. He's found some solutions to stuff that's really going to work.
I tell you what, though, if he's hedged his bets and sort of covered his back a little bit by making sure that works through the corners, and let's say Renault turn up with a stunning engine, Red Bull could be unstoppable this year. And that's a big that's a big gamble to pay there. I know that's a neck on the line moment, but it could happen if Renault get the engine right.
I have to agree with you. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the car that challenged Mercedes, since a year ago everyone thought Red Bull would challenge Mercedes, and by the time testing rolled by it was actually Ferrari, and now I believe most people think it might be Ferrari, but I don't know, this might be it.
It'd be nice to see a change at the front, wouldn't it? To mix up that between the Ferraris and Mercedes. I'd like to see a world champion that isn't the Mercedes this year, actually. Just I like a bit of variation in life. But one thing they're going to have to nail this year, and they might want to have a quick word with Daniel Ricciardo, is try not to crash it, particularly not in a shakedown. Apparently he did crash it at low speed and damage the car, but they think they can get it fixed for testing. That's not great for a filming day. On the subject of filming days and shakedowns, I guess you can call it, we got a cheeky little leak, quote unquote, from Toro Rosso. Their social media team excelled themselves again, John T, but we can't really see a lot on it. I have tried to highlight a couple of areas of interest that some people might find interesting anyway, but it's all right. I mean, it's so hard to see it, isn't it, from those pictures, John T?
Yeah, I mean, we can't really make a lot out, even when it's highlighted and brightened up. There's still not a lot you can see. But the best part of this, like you said, is Toro's social media team. They've certainly taken the fight to force India and Renault, who were the ones keeping people entertained on Twitter last year.
Yeah,
Toros is saying instead of a leaked photo, here, have the original. It's genius.
The few points there that I've highlighted, the arrow there is pointing at the size of the air intake. It is huge. Whether or not that's divided inside, it possibly is actually. Looking at that now, it's been highlighted. It does look like there's some divide in there, possibly even 3. Maybe. Yeah. Obviously, there's the wing on the halo, so we've seen that develop. The tiny air intake on the side pod again, almost rivaling the Red Bull in terms of size. And of course, I've highlighted a barge board there, just, why not? Is there anything you've spotted on there, Jonty, just at first glance that intrigues you at all?
At first glance, I don't know if it's just because of the angle, but the actual air intake looks to be quite fat as it goes further back across the engine cover. I mean, I only think that just because of the way it's hiding what there is of the shark fin. Now, whether they've gone with a smaller shark fin, I don't know. But that certainly seems quite large, not just at the front.
Yeah.
Which is odd. Maybe that's to compensate for having such small intakes on the side pods. Sort of get the main cooling done somewhere else so they can tighten up the package going towards the rear.
I mean, I will say, we can't always trust F1 teams. This could be smoke and mirrors. This could be just a different painted 2017 car that they're just trying to trick us all with, but it's always worth a look. One reason I'm suspicious, I'll be honest, first of all, it's not particularly well tightly packaged, as we can see from the back shot. A terrible picture, I do apologise. But also I've highlighted there what looks like the word Honda, and as far as I was aware, the Honda engine isn't running yet. I know they did a startup, but I didn't know if it was running yet. I might be wrong.
No, I think they announced it on Twitter.
Did they?
Well, I can't remember for certain. I've been at work.
I'm not. it's one of those things that I would not be surprised if when we see it on Monday, it looks nothing like that. But it's worth pointing a few bits out on it they're sort of looking at. But what do you think of that Toro Rosso, TK?
Well, you can't see much, but on the Honda thing anyway, if the engine wasn't running, I don't think Honda would like if it said Renault on the car.
No, true. That's true. Yeah, it could just be a filming day. They've just updated the 2017 one, but it'll be interesting to see how they go, really. But out of all of them, then, before we jump into Q&A, I'll come to you first, TK. Which one's the best looking car, and which one are you most looking forward to seeing on track so far?
Well, personally, I like the Red Bull. If they keep delivery, if they go back to the old one, then I might have to say it's the Alfa Sauber.
Yeah. What about you, John T?
No, I love the Alfa Sauber. It's brilliant. It's everything that we wanted, really. Yes, delivery could be a bit more dramatic, but at least it's stylish.
It definitely is classically stylish.
I have to say, it's I actually said in my video, weirdly, it was one of the most anticipated cars, wasn't it? Because obviously the Alfa backing and thing. I just think it's stunning. And like I said earlier, the more I look at it, the more I fall in love with it. And I really hope that they nail it this year. That Ferrari engine's spot on. The aero's good. They can get it right. We see what Charles Leclerc can really do. And I'm going to say it, I really want to see what Marcus Ericsson can do in a car that is not competitive with the front teams, because it's not going to be, but in that midfield. Let's finally see if we can put to bed this he's rubbish around Marcus Ericsson.
No, I think Leclerc's going to slay him, to be quite honest. It's quite a brutal prediction, but I think it's going to be the case. Although they're making my prediction of 10 points finishes for Leclerc look a bit more likely.
Yeah, you might want to revise that, maybe change it up a little bit. Let's not start making more predictions, John. So you've got enough to worry about for this year. Obviously, more launches coming this week. The three, I guess you could say, the three biggest ones remaining with Mercedes, Ferrari and McLaren. It's Mercedes and Ferrari tomorrow. I will upload initial impressions for those. Same with McLaren on Friday. And then I think we'll have another techie special on Sunday and then preview some of the testing as well, John. I think that sounds like a good idea, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot more to talk about with Mercedes and Ferrari, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Right. We're going to open up to Q&A in just a couple of minutes, but I'm going to have to take a quick break and I'll be back with you very, very shortly. Hey guys, Sean here and welcome to the F1 Word. So, have my opinions on the Halo changed? Well, aesthetically, no. I still think it's absolutely hideous and it just doesn't look as though it has any place on a Formula 1 car. However, as I've said in this video a couple of times, safety is absolutely paramount. iRacing, you've made the switch over to Twitch. I love saying that, I'm sorry. I will stop saying that.
A video platform, we'll say that. It makes it more easier.
Yeah, it definitely does. You're enjoying it though, aren't you, mate? You can tell in your streaming, you're just having so much more fun with it. It's a rumour that's been flying around for a while now, ever since Sauber announced that they'd be using the Ferrari 2018 engine next season. Everybody's been expecting Alfa to be part of that in some way, and it has now been officially confirmed by all parties. Max Verstappen then, he took his third career win in Mexico with an absolute cruise. A peach of a drive. Dominant. It's the only word. Absolutely dominant. He took the lead in turn 2. He absolutely disappeared. So what they've decided to do is just continue digging and making things worse. Just stop it, FIA. Just stop right where you are and stop being so ridiculous. You do sort of look at them like, back away from the rule book. Just leave it alone. It's a mess. Just do not make it any worse. Charles.
Hello.
Hello. 2 more in general chat. Jonah, do you have a favourite flavour of yoghurt? I'm going to risk chaos now.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to drop 2 more in. We've got Luke and we've got Tom. Very quickly, guys, before I go to Q&A. Favourite flavour of yoghurt?
Can you mix something in the yogurts? For example, drinks.
With what? There we go. I'm back. There we go. So, it's time for your questions. Get them all in the chat. We'll try and answer as many as possible. Also on screen right now, there's a few concept liveries scrolling through on the screen from one of the members on Discord that he wanted me to share. So there you go, mate. I've popped them on there for you. We're going to have a look. So just pop your questions in the chat. We'll answer as many as we can. Yeah. I'll start off with Ratters. Are you putting any bets on for the season? I wasn't, but I'm tempted to put some on Alfa Sauber now. That's for sure.
Yeah, it might, even before we've seen it, it might be worth having a look at McLaren.
Yeah, possibly, yeah. Make a big jump, aren't they, this year? B. Savary says, should Sauber have more red on it? Initially, yeah, I thought that, but to be honest, as Jonty said, it's really grown on me quite a lot as well, and it does look pretty nice. I like it.
One thing it desperately needs is a great big cloverleaf somewhere.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me picking one, Orange Speaking says, have you heard about Renault engine apparently having more than 950 brake horsepower? Yeah, I read about that as well, and I also read from somewhere that they began development of this year's engine all the way back in 2015, so I really hope it will be competitive.
Yeah, it'd be great. I mean, if they've hit 950, yeah, that'd be...
It would be awesome.
It'd just be great to have a 3 or 4 way scrap at the front, wouldn't it? Because obviously Red Bull can design a chassis. We know McLaren can. So if they've got an engine behind them, we know the Mercedes will be good and the Ferrari will be good. It could be epic. We could end up with a cracking fight at the front and then an incredible scrap in the midfield. I mean, it's quite. I'm really looking forward to this year. I've always looked forward to F1, but for some reason this year, despite things like the Halo, I am really looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, like we keep coming back to this. If Renault have put together a genuinely good engine, we've got at least 5 teams fighting for the front.
Yeah. Incredible, wouldn't it? Just, especially when you think of some of the drivers in that mix as well. And that takes us to Tiago. Tiago. Yeah, so the red one. Tiago's question: do you think Verstappen has a shot at the title? As we say all the time, John T, if Renault turn up with an engine, he's going to, isn't he? He's got to have.
Yeah, if that engine's putting out the claimed 950, then he's definitely in with a shot.
Yeah, I think the 950, it will be enough. Because Red Bull's aero tends to be so wonderful. Even if the Mercedes had 1,000, I think it could be possible.
Yeah, because that aero, as we were saying earlier, through the corners and things, it will make up quite a bit. Maybe not the 50 horsepower, but obviously Mercedes design good cars, but they don't tend to look at the aero because the idea is they're out front. As we've seen, when they fall back, they're not quite so good at making their way through the field. But it'd be interesting to. I think Red Bull have got a shot if the engine's right, and you can't, like you say, can't not put McLaren in there as well. I just saw a question now, I've lost it, so hopefully it'll come back around again. They tend to. How many Q3s for Leclerc? Asks Sarang. I hope I said that right. Sorry, probably not. Go on then, John T.
11.
11?
Just the one more than the 10 points. No, Q3s. Oh, no,
yeah.
8.
8? Okay.
Confuse myself then.
I'm just going to say 9.
I'll say 7. I'll go the other way. Yeah, I hope he's not one of these that we all rave about when they come out of F2 or GP2 and then never really do it. I really hope he does nail it. I think he will, but Jurassic Emu, how many gravel traps will Ericsson be in? Well, not many chances for gravel traps these days, is there? So AJ Hamilton, can you see Mercedes doing any drastic livery changes? I think so long as they're partnered with Petronas, they're always going to look pretty much as they are, aren't they, John T, really?
Yeah. We can hope for more turquoise, and that's about it.
We're going with turquoise today, are we?
All right, then teal. We can only hope for more of that, but sadly they are known as the silver arrows, so there's always going to be a dominant amount of silver on the car.
Yeah, Silver is too well known with Mercedes, and green or turquoise with Petronas.
Yeah, and it's great how they ended up being silver. So I don't think they want to move away from that history.
No. Frank, who will supply Red Bull in 2019? Looks like Honda, doesn't it?
Yeah, most likely.
Well, Helmut Marko said Verstappen was convinced to sign a deal by a visit to the Honda factory. So I think that pretty much confirms their Red Bull will be having Honda engines for 2019 and 2020.
I think it's pretty much a done deal. I think probably all but signed, I would say. I think there's sort of probably a verbal agreement in place if Honda turn up with a good engine, but obviously they've seen signs that they're going to. But I'm still wondering if loaning Carlos Sainz out to Renault had more to do with it than maybe we thought at the time. I'm just wondering if they're sort of saying we're going to move to Honda if they've got the engine. However, if the engine's still not good, please can we keep our engine, Renault? You can keep Carlos Sainz. I could just see him ended up as a bargaining chip, which, yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Games Donovan, which team will be most affected by team orders? Ferrari. Probably.
That's a tough question. I'd probably say McLaren.
Force India if the boys start crashing into each other again early season, then they won't be allowed to race. But
I'm gonna give a coward's answer to this one, and not gonna say a team. I'm just saying it will be the team with the most evenly matched drivers and who are in most competition by other teams.
Okay, sitting on the fence a little bit, just playing it safe. Honda tweaking engine sounds suggests that they have got a good engine, says Sarang. Yeah. Did you see? Actually, I'll put my own question. Did you see the rake on that Red Bull, John T? That was insane. I know they always do, but Jesus.
Yeah, well, that could be an explanation for the suspension being jacked right up for a wet weather shakedown. But it just seems more than that.
Yeah.
Well, Red Bull have always been the most aggressive on the rake angle. Maybe they're just getting even more from it.
Probably, yeah. It just looked incredible. Craig Torley, how much quicker will this year's cars be, considering they are heavier and have drag from the halo? On the face of it, you'd think they'd be a little bit slower, but I think even Mercedes have found more power, haven't they? If they're to be believed. Mercedes, Ferrari, Renault, and Honda. So could end up quicker.
I think because of the softer tires and the rate of development, I think at least quali times will improve, but I don't think race lap records will drop that much.
A good point, actually, there. We are only in the second year, aren't we, of this new aero era, so they should get, in theory, they should get quicker year on year, and then the FIA will change all the rules again because they're getting too quick. There you go. Zach Mullen, off topic, but did Massa deserve a world championship? I'll come to you for that one, John T.
Yes, absolutely. He earned it in 2008, and it was just bad luck that took it from him.
Yeah, I think I said it on Sunday as well. One of the most emotional moments, I think, him on the podium. Such a nice guy as well. He will be missed in 2018, that's for sure. Will we see a new race winner in 2018? Asks Demiscu.
I think someone asked something similar last week, to which I answered yes. Ocon.
I'm going to throw Van Dorn in there.
I think Van Dorn is the only shot maybe for race winner.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're you two, aren't they? Ocon and Van Dorn as most likely. I think there's anybody else that might. Maybe Crazy Race if Renault have got an all right car at the end and Carlos Sainz nick one, or maybe, but I think you're relying on a Baku situation there, aren't you? So
Yeah. I've got to agree with Hilmi Fauzi. I would love for Hulkenberg to get a win.
yeah, I mean, a podium would be great, but yeah, a win.
It would be all.
But yeah, a few asking now about Hulkenberg getting a podium. I think he needs one. I think if nothing else, I think everyone would love him getting that, and it might just do him the world of good to get that podium, because it's not a nice record to have, is it? So would love to see him do it. Will Baku be boring again this year? Ask Stig1738. Probably. It was boring every year except for 2017, wasn't it? So, or 2016. It was boring at least, but it's not a track to overtake on, really, apart from maybe down into turn 1. It's a bit too tight. I don't like the castle section. It's not my favourite track. There are worse, believe it or not, but it's not my favourite one. Lil Jersper says Sirotkin will get a podium. Who knows?
Unlikely, but it'd be great to see it happen. I'd like to see that. Sorry, go on, TK.
Yeah, well, he'd prove a lot of people wrong.
Yeah, I was to say it'd be great for that, silencing the critics.
We talked about Williams the other day in the analysis, but we said at the time that car really impressed us. But having seen some of the ones that have been released since, it's not as good as I actually thought it was initially. But I hope. I mean, I've always said they've got no excuse. You know, they've got more of a budget than Force India. They've got the best engine on the grid. They should be up there fighting for top-end points and podiums. But, yeah, I'd love to see him get one. And Lance Stroll as well. Prove anybody that's criticised him wrong, including me. I've criticised him heavily, as you might have noticed, sort of to the back end of last season. But hopefully they'll prove us wrong. That would be great. Gamer Today says, what do you think about adding a Dutch Grand Prix since there is a huge number of Dutch fans?
I've got a feeling it's being worked on quite hard, purely because of the money it will bring in. You know, I think Russia came in just around the time we'd had two Russian drivers in very close succession. All of a sudden, Russia gets a Grand Prix. It's more than a bit coincidental with the amount of money involved. So I think it's 2020 at the latest.
Yeah, I mean, where are they going? I mean, Zandvoort has been mentioned quite a bit. I'd love to see F1 back there. That's for sure. It's quite a narrow track, though, isn't it, Zandvoort? That would be my only argument against it. But we've still got Monaco, so
yeah, exactly.
Alexander says Snow Grand Prix in Finland. You'd like a Grand Prix up there, wouldn't you, TK?
Yeah, definitely.
A snow one could be interesting. That's never happened, obviously, but it would be, yeah.
I wonder how well the cars would run in such cold conditions.
More power.
Yeah. Definitely be.
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
go on, TK.
Yeah, well, Verstappen drove one of the V8 Red Bulls in Austria in a, what's it called, the Kitzbühel, the skiing center.
Yeah, it was at Kitzbühel. Yeah, and that looked great, but I don't think it would work in a race, unfortunately. You imagine someone's gets thrown off.
That's what the halo's for. Leave it. I've always said there should be a Grand Prix somewhere near Finland, because the amount of drivers we've had from there, it'd be nice to see something given back, I guess, because we've got some belting drivers. Obviously, we've got Kimi Räikkönen at the minute, who we all absolutely adore. Stig1738, will track limits be more stricter this year? They need to be.
Yeah, I think they have to be. The controversy it caused last year, I don't think they'll be wanting to go down that road again.
No, it's not worth the hassle. Sorry, I was reading two comments at once, so that didn't work out. They want a Danish Grand Prix. Yeah, there's talk about there being a street circuit. Don't really want any street circuits. Will we see big sandbagging from Ferrari tomorrow? Yes. The Mercedes and Ferrari we see tomorrow will not be the same one that rocks up in Barcelona. Not by a long way.
Yeah, probably not. In fact, definitely not.
Zach Mullen, would you be an F1 steward if you had the chance?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd give it a go, but I'd upset a lot of people.
No, I'd like to think I can look at it without favouring anyone. That would be the ideal situation. That's why we need Brundle doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Martin Brundle tends to get it right.
One of those. Some of his opinions, you sometimes think he should be running for FIA presidency, though, don't you? He's one of those. Just says it as it is. We could do with a few more of them
Get
in
rid
F1.
of blue flags. There you go. We'll start it here. Brundle for president.
Yeah. Hashtag it, Jonty. It's yeah. Hashtag Brundle for president. Rico says, what are your 4 favourite tracks in the history of motorsport?
Oh, that's a big one.
That's definitely one to think about.
Spa, Donington, Bathurst, and one more.
Spa, Suzuka, Le Mans, Monza.
Good shouts.
I'm gonna round it off with Watkins Glen. There you go. Spa, Donington, Bathurst, Watkins Glen.
I'm going to throw Imola in there because it wouldn't be a stream if I didn't mention it. Old Hockenheim. I'm going to stick with just F1, but I go Old Hockenheim. Would love to see Watkins Glen back. Fantastic track. Probably Spa, but it's really hard not to put the Nürburgring in there as well. Yeah, they're my fault. That'll do. You could name so many, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Just while we're on the subject of tracks, Jurassic Emu prefers Fuji Speedway or Suzuka. Suzuka all the way.
Yeah, Suzuka. And it should be
Suzuka
hosting the last race.
Yeah. Suzuka out of those two, but Fuji isn't that bad.
Oh, you see, again, people, Mugello, Imola. See, this is what happens. How did I forget Kalama, for God's sake?
B. Savary says, clearly Abu Dhabi is the best. Yeah.
I don't want to laugh just on general principle.
It's, as I've said the last few weeks, stunning backdrop, terrible racetrack. Which tracks are gems then that should never go away?
Suzuka.
Spa.
Yeah, Suzuka, Spa, Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve, Monza.
Barcelona, Circuit de Catalunya. Not a great one for overtaking, but it's quite a... You throw pre-season testing in there as well. It's quite a big track for F1, isn't it? So it's just not very spectacular.
Melbourne. Oh, Interlagos. Yeah. How can we forget Interlagos on what shouldn't go away?
So you said Melbourne. I'm not sure on Melbourne because it doesn't always throw up a particularly brilliant Grand Prix, but we always talk about it really fondly. And I can't help but feel we talk about it so fondly because we've not had racing for 3 months, so anything will do. That's kind of how I feel about races around Australia.
Yeah, maybe. Although Monaco's one I would lose, but not entirely. I got a lot of flack for suggesting that we should get rid of Monaco. Monaco should stay, but it should be a week-long launch event in February, all around Monaco, all the teams there launching together.
Thank you for thank you for the contribution. Be savoury, not savoury. Love you too. But yeah, thank you very much for that. Really do appreciate that, mate.
Was
That's
that
awesome.
Severi?
Say it. Be savoury. Oh, not savoury. Sorry. Be savoury. That'll do. Right. Okay. We'll sort it out. I'll talk to him on Discord and we'll get it pronounced right for the next stream. Definitely. Are Ferrari helping Sauber this year? If so, have we seen a taste of the new Ferrari in the Alfa Sauber? No. They might be helping, or there might be some influence in that respect, but I don't think there'll be anything on the Alfa Sauber that ends up on the Ferrari. Obviously, Haas have reworked the 2017 Ferrari, but I can't see. Yeah.
No, I've got a feeling there is some technical partnership in there, but nothing so obvious that they might get in trouble for
it. Nation Goering says you like Montreal because of 2011. Well, if that's the only reason to like Montreal, it'll certainly do.
But no, there's always a good race there.
Savoury. Sorry, I'm just trying to work that name out now. Is the team more Alpha or more Sauber? Who has the control? I think it's still Sauber. I think Alpha are just officially a title sponsor and technical partnership, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
And do you think Red Bull will go with a British Racing Green livery, seeing as they are with Aston? I would love to see British Racing Green return to it, but based on their team wear, their overalls, and the team trucks and stuff, I think it'll be pretty much what we're used to.
Yeah, that seems likely.
Oh, yes, Jivan. It just said about Brabham. I forgot to read up on that. There are rumours of the Brabham name coming back to Formula One, but I can't say any more than that because it is just rumour. I haven't had any proper time to read up on that, but I might do that tonight because that's an interesting one.
If that came back tied in with Williams, I'd be happy. Be a bit of history there.
ST, aka Sarah, has just donated. He says, forget you missed ad revenue because I was swearing on your stream. Hashtag Baku to stay. Thank you, ST. But I will say thank you, ST, but you missed the 69.
That was, where did I see that now?
Brabham taking over Force India, says Lee. There's talk of them getting bought out by an energy drinks company in the UK, but that'll do.
Yeah, I'll be all right.
Just Brabham or Force Brabham? No, that sounds painful. Brabham.
Yeah, I'd be happy with that. As you saw Jurassic asking, what's the most boring race you have ever seen? Honestly, Abu Dhabi 2016.
2016?
Surely you mean 2017.
2017 was bad. 2016 actually was worse. It was there was only entertainment because of drama on the radio. This is an order, Lewis. Speed up.
Actually.
Oh yeah.
Half the race was 4 seconds off the pace.
I tell you what then, before I finish off, we'll put our ideas out there as well. In the chat now, let me know what you think Force India's new name will be. Rumours we're going to hear on Sunday, but we'll definitely know by the end of Monday. What are your thoughts, TK?
I think it's just going to be Force Racing.
Yeah, what's the energy drinks company? Somebody shared it on Discord earlier, actually, just see if I can find it.
Well, if that goes through, then it might be something entirely different.
Find what they were called.
I'd love for that to be Monster, just so we get Monster Force.
Monster Force. That'd be brilliant. Rich Energy, a British energy drinks company, are understood to be in talks with Force India over a £200 million takeover ahead of the new season. So what?
Can't see that.
A few in chat saying it's been debunked anyway. Hype Force 1. That's a good one. I quite like the Monster Force. I quite like that. Pink Panther, Use the Force. I'm not going to read that one.
But it's
India
funny.
1.
All they need to do is add a W to the front of it to really get that positive vibe going. Windier.
Force Windia. Positive vibe.
What are we going to do? We're going to win. Yeah.
Or they might need some indigestion tablets. Trevor Fredrickson, can you say my name live, please? There you go, Trevor. Easy as that. Air Force One, that's a good one. I like that. Force teammate Crash. Oh, what's that one? Hang on. Kingfisher Panther Air Force Pink India 1 Brabham. Says the sporty game at 8. Oh,
If
brilliant.
the Brabham thing's true, don't let Vettel be involved because we'll end up with Brabham. I don't know why people like that. That was really annoying.
It was very annoying. Boris Force. Sounds painful. Force pretty okay, really. Force Windia Curry deliveries, says Lee Haynes.
Oh, that's a good one. Team Orders 1.
Team Orders 1, yeah. Joy 101 says Ferrari. Imagine a Disney-sponsored car.
Force Frozen.
Force. Oh, get out. Let it go, Jonty. That's terrible. Crash Force 1. Force. Quite a few saying Force Racing. I think I agree with TK. I think if they're going to go with anything, it'll just be Force Racing because all they're talking about is dropping the India, aren't they, TK? So.
Yeah, pretty much.
Ocon versus Perez 1. Pink Mercedes. Force Let It Go, brackets fast. Force D, Force Sleepy, Force F1 word. We'll have that. I can't afford
Force and the India.
I'm going to watch just for a couple of seconds, see if we get anything brilliant through. But I think Force Ping Pong, yeah.
Lee Hayes is right. Brabham have stated that they will be back. What they said they will be. Whether it happens or not is another matter, but I really, really hope they do. That's a classic name.
Yeah. Is that the one name you'd have back against all others, or is there one other?
Going on sort of teams as opposed to manufacturers, it's definitely up there. It'd be Brabham, Tyrrell, or Jordan.
I'd like to see the proper Lotus name back. Not the one that Tony Fernandez tried to bring back, or the Renault version. Proper Colin Chapman's Team Lotus.
Yeah.
Proper history there. Trouble is, it's so damn expensive now, isn't it? So, yeah. RC Force Indiana Jones. Why not? Car Crash 1.
Sarthik VS came up with the best one, Force Jonty. I mean, you can't beat that. It's nice to know.
I was going to say the silence says it all. Yeah. Why not? We'll call it Force Jonty for the year if they can't come up with anything better. But I think that is it. We're going to leave it because we've got obviously quite a lot of content coming up this week. So, but thank you very much for joining us today, TK. It was great to get another opinion.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No worries, mate. Thanks for coming on. And as ever, Jonty, thank you, despite being at work all day, for taking an hour and a half of your time and giving me a hand on this one. Really do appreciate it, mate.
Anytime. We'll do it all again Sunday.
Oh, yes. All right, guys. I'll talk to you again soon.
See you later.
See ya.
Thanks again then to TK and to Jonty, and thank you so much to everyone that's got involved tonight. We've absolutely smashed through 14k record viewers as well, so it's awesome to have you all involved. Thank you for that. I am going to do a shout out for subs. So deep breath. If I screw your name up, I do apologise. This could take a while, right? So Chris Bellew, Raymond Tellman, Pedro Fortuna, Christian Fernando, Thierry Atkinson, Stefan Mitchell, Francis, Brambo XBXB, Hubba Wajunga, great name, Jacob, Lydia, Kresniffs, Roland van der Vey, I think, Ab Hicks, Seb Jones, Tiago, Aaron, Tjas. If I got that wrong, I do apologise. Universal, Ryan. I've lost where I was. Cody, Ismiter. Died Manolis, George, Yuka, Jetman, Thomas, JVC, Francisco. Thank you again to be Savoury for your contribution, and you, ST, aka Sarah, as well. And thank you as well for Nick, or to Nick, for your subscription. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it, guys. It's awesome. Channel's absolutely booming at the moment, and we're going to keep growing. I will be back tomorrow with the Mercedes launch first impressions and the Ferrari's launch first impressions. Just to clarify, they are just first impressions. They are not analysis. Please don't get the two confused, because we do analysis on the live stream on Sunday. And then, of course, the McLaren on Friday as well. And then we'll be live again at 6 p.m. UK time on Sunday for analysis of all three of those. It's going to be a hectic week. And then we're into testing. Oh, sorry. Anyway, it's coming around quick. We'll soon be in Australia. As ever, you can follow me on social media. Links to Twitter, Facebook, and Discord are all in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean. This has been the F1 Word. And until next time, goodbye.